Greetings again everyone, and today I'm checking out a really neat little autofocus prime lens by TTArtisan, which is currently just for Nikon Z mount cameras, full frame or aps-c. It combines a tiny size, a usefully wide angle of 32mm, an aperture of f2.8, as well as autofocus, and it comes in at a bargain price of $170 or about £175 here in the UK. I'd like to thank TTArtisan for sending me a copy of this little lens for evaluation. Although as usual, this is a totally independent review. We'll look at both its strengths and its weaknesses. Although I will start by saying that I think its angle of 32mm on a full frame camera is a bit of a strength. A slightly unusual angle to be sure, but it's plenty wide enough to get you the bigger picture, but not so wide that you can't get a little emphasis on your subject. Handy. And the maximum aperture of f2.8 is of course just about bright enough to give you a little advantage when shooting in darker situations. The lens is small as you can see and pretty lightweight at 200 grams. It's made of metal down to the lens mount, so it's really tough, but it doesn't feature weather sealing. Its only control point is a manual focus ring, which is electronically coupled to the lens's autofocus motor, and it works with it pretty responsively. As you can see here, the lens doesn't display much focus breathing, but the edges do warp in and out quite a lot as you change focus. The lens's autofocus motor is a little slow, but it works silently and accurately, well, most of the time. The lens has a retro-style built-in plastic hood, which pops out a little. Nice touch, but unfortunately, this means you can't attach filters to the lens. The hood cannot be detached, and that's a huge shame. Please repent of that design issue, TTArtisan, for I love my polarizing filters. The lens does not feature image stabilization, unsurprising at this price point. Overall, you're getting what you pay for here, but the lens does at least work fairly well. Shame about the lack of a filter thread though. Okay, let's see about image quality. I'll be testing it on my Nikon Z7 with its full frame 45 megapixel sensor. In-camera corrections are turned on. Straight from f2.8, we are seeing excellent sharpness in the middle of the image, although contrast is a bit low. Over in the corners, things aren't quite so encouraging, with ghosting on contrasting edges and visible chromatic aberration, even with in-camera corrections turned on. Let's stop down to f4 and, well, the corners look way better now. Neat. At f5.6 and f8, those corners become very sharp, which is pretty impressive, although the eagle-eyed will still see a touch of colour fringing. The lens stays this sharp down to f16, which still looks suspiciously sharp. Diffraction should be kicking in at this point, so I suspect the lens's aperture mechanism may not be fully stopping down quite as darkly as it should. Still, overall, this is quite good image quality for the price you're paying. The lens is always sharp in the middle, and the corners sharpen up quite quickly as you top it down. You will find yourself adding more contrast to your images in editing though, which is a weak point, frankly. Okay, let's turn off in-camera corrections and take a look at distortion and vignetting, again on a full-frame camera. Apologies for the rather soft image here. As I'll tell you about in a minute, the lens unfortunately has a rather long minimum focus distance. The lens projects a moderate barrel distortion and darkness in the corners at f2.8. At f4 the darkness is just about as bad, but stop down to f5.6 and they finally brighten up a little, although stopping down further than that makes no improvement. The lens's closest focus distance is 50 centimeters, half a meter. That is not good, really. I like taking my close-up pictures of smaller subjects. Oh well, at least when you do shoot close-up, then, even at f2.8, there's no degradation of image quality. Let's see how the lens works against bright lights now. It's not good at all, really. Plenty of flaring to be seen when bright lights are in the image, and difficult glaring when they're on the periphery or even outside the image, and this can often be a real problem. Oh well, at least that lens hood is built in, so you won't be losing it anytime soon. And finally, bokeh. It's not easy to get out of focus backgrounds here due to the lens's long minimum focus distance. When you do though, then those backgrounds look quite lovely and consistently soft with only a touch of highlighting to brighter points. At the end of the day, I had mixed feelings about the quality of this lens, although overall there is no denying that it's quite good value for money for its low price. It can offer you sharp images in a small, inexpensive package. My bones of contention were the lack of a filter thread, its long minimum focus distance, and its very poor work against bright light, which would often lead to glaring in your images. But overall, it's pretty handy, its autofocus works, and for $170 it can get you some nice full frame images, so don't discount it by any means. You know what's always good value for money? Supporting this channel on Patreon, of course. Patreon supporters get all kinds of exclusive bonus content 2 or 3 times a month, including bonus videos and early access to my most interesting reviews, as well as a warm, fuzzy feeling deep inside for having helped keep this channel trucking on. Check it out in the description below, and keep watching the stars, everyone.